Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Wild Card, a Korean crime drama thriller from 2003 that has always gone under the radar of international film fans. I've only seen Wild Card one time, way back in like 2008 or something like that, but I remember liking it, so I decided to give it a rewatch after all of these years to see if it holds up. And I'm happy to say that it does indeed hold up, so I wanted to make a review of it. Now, the premise of Wild Card is as follows. You got two cops trying to catch four robbers who kill their victims. Now, we're introduced to our cop protagonists early on, and they're getting reprimanded for excessive force, even though the circumstances were obviously life-threatening and they were justified in their actions. And that theme kind of plays out at various points in the film. Then we are introduced to our villains very quickly, who strike by cruelly murdering a woman for the cash in her purse. They don't even bother asking for the cash. They just walk up and straight up kill her. You know what I'm saying? Then take her cash and then walk away. Now, after this event, the cops attempt a broad crackdown on criminal groups in the area in an attempt to find a lead on this murder. But it quickly becomes apparent that these murderers are not part of the local syndicates. But that's okay, because our protagonist cops want the gangsters to do the legwork for them, which is a good idea because they get more eyes out on the streets looking for these vicious bad guys, and things go from there. So you could tell that, although the premise of Wild Card is rather simple and formulaic, there are some interesting elements within it. One of which is that most of the gangsters in this film are in league with the cops in their effort to find and nab these murderers, which I found to be rather interesting, and amusing, because these gangsters are portrayed as rather incompetent and jittery, you know what I'm saying? And a rarity in Korean film is when the cops are actually more competent than the gangsters, right? Because a lot of times we'll see cops in Korean films that are just utter buffoons, but in this case, most of the cops are pretty good at their job, and the gangsters are they're kind of in over their heads in their professions. So these gangsters just want the cops to get off their backs, and the easiest way to do that is to help them catch these killers. So, again, the gangsters are practically protagonists in that sense in this film. Also, I like the characterization of our leads, as well as their interaction. You get a good feel for these guys. There are certain dilemmas that they need to address while attempting to catch the bad guys, like personal dilemmas and stuff like that, moral dilemmas. There's also some friction between a few of the cops themselves, but it's kind of used to develop their working relationship and sense of brotherhood along the way. So, for example, there's like this side character cop who is pretty unreliable, and he's intentionally unreliable for certain reasons, and he becomes a problem for the unit as a whole, and it's interesting to see how they kind of deal with his shortcomings throughout the film. There's also a few good bits of dialogue in this as well. The performances are solid across the board, just good quality stuff. There are also a few brief bits of humor to help kind of balance things out and add some color to the protagonists. The opening chase scene is actually quite funny, I think. Gets the film off to a nice start. But the most memorable aspect of Wild Card is likely the ruthlessness of the villains. These guys are vicious, and consequently, there are a few disturbing moments that you have in this film. There's a scene involving two bar girls that's near like the midpoint, that's quite unnerving and suspenseful, and it's probably the best scene in the film in my opinion. It's the one I remembered the most when I first saw this movie years ago, and it definitely holds up upon a rewatch. I really like that scene. In regard to possible flaws, the runtime is a bit on the long side, I'd say. It's not actually 2 full hours, it's a little under that, I think, but I still think it could have been edited down a little bit. There's a romantic subplot that probably could have been cut out, I think. It does add a little bit of color to the personality of one of the cops, but so it's not entirely useless or anything, but it does feel unnecessary to the main story, and it also contributes the one glaring contrivance to the film from a script writing standpoint. The other thing to keep in mind is that you're not going to see anything inventive or new in this film. The premise is pretty basic. The execution, I guess you could say, is formulaic, but it's of a good quality. You know what I'm saying? That could be a problem for some viewers, though, like the general familiarity of the premise of the film. But So if you've really kind of grown tired of like Korean gangster flicks, this one probably will not win you over. But if you like Korean gangster flicks and you have not seen it, and you want a good one that you haven't seen, this is one to check out, I think. I enjoy this one quite a bit because, the protagonists are properly developed, there's a dramatic basis to everything, and the antagonists are memorable in their heartlessness, you know what I mean? So, overall, I recommend this movie. If you're looking for, like I said, a good Korean crime flick that you may not have seen. And it's currently available on Region 3 DVD with English subtitles. And as always, I'll see you next time.